I guess we should just go right into to Peacemaker, which is funny because this is a very, very different take on something. This is very campy. This is very funny. It's the opposite in terms of tone of what we were just talking about. But I wanted to do the serious stuff first and get that out of my system.
Take a deep breath
and talk about it and go through it. So this episode was episode 4.
Yep.
What did you think about it?
I actually like it more. Like our coworker Sarah Noble, she never watched the series and she watched this episode and she kind of likes it.
Okay.
Like where it's going. So I think it was just the first episode that caught me off guard.
In this episode, I'm going to read through one of the review. This is like a synopsis, a longer synopsis, just so people get an idea of what's happening. So it says, episode 4 of Peacemaker begins, and this is from the Review Geek, who does a really good job of doing like his he doesn't editorialize in his he editorializes in his review, but when he does his synopsis, he doesn't let it bleed through in there. And I like that. So it says, episode 4 of Peacemaker begins with Peacemaker and the gang heading back from their successful mission against the senator and his family. Judo Master is alive, and it turns out he's taken captive in the office where Myrn is waiting for the gang. He questions Peacemaker over his hesitancy in the field, who holds his own and claims that it was only because there were kids involved, which is funny because they keep referring back to this line from the movie The Suicide Squad where he says, I cherish peace with all my heart and I don't care how many men, women, and children I have to kill to get it. So they're like I said, the character of Peacemaker feels very different than he did in the movie. Obviously, I think that was because they wanted to be able to stretch the emotional resonance out over more episodes. So it says, for Peacemaker, for now, Peacemaker is tasked with heading out with Vigilante after half his pinky toe is cut off. He continues to complain that he's never going to walk again. It's like a bit through the episode. Like, you can't walk without your pinky toe. And everyone's like, that's not the real thing. You can absolutely walk without your pinky toe. Wouldn't be able to be a ballerina again, though. He was never
Or
a ballerina.
can you?
Yeah. They drive up
model?
to...
His OnlyFans career is over.
Exactly. We all know how much
Wiki Feet needs that.
We know how much people pay for feet pics.
Do you? How much do they pay, Brett?
They pay me a lot of money for.
Oh.
The drive up to Augie's house together. Augie is his dad. Where Peacemaker breaks in looking for his dad, and basically they find out that in this episode he finds out that they framed his dad for a crime that Peacemaker committed to keep Peacemaker on mission. And the whole thing comes about how his dad is a supervillain named the White Dragon, who's a white supremacist. And the whole show. This is where it goes off the rails for me.
Yeah.
His dad is constantly described as being an evil MFer who is extremely racist and taught his son how to kill from an early age. There's a scene of his dad like making him kill a dude, and his dad's laughing about it. But whenever they go back to talk about how his dad is an awful person, they always go back to the fact that he's a racist. In the past, the character would have been the exact same thing. In a show in the past, he would have been a piece of shit who trained his kid how to murder people. And he was a racist piece of shit. The racism would have been like the cherry on top of him being just a horrible human being. But the focus would have been on the fact that he was training his son to be a murderer from the time he was born. In this, they talk about the racism as if it's the most unforgivable aspect and not the fact that he turned his child into a murderer.
Yeah. Well, I think they use it sounds like I haven't seen the show, as like the reason he does this is because he's racist. Whereas like in other versions of it, like the corruption of his son's innocence and the lack of regard he has for his son's soul basically would have been at the center, and the racism would have been an expression of his own internal corruption.
Exactly. So it's extremely, that's the one part that just really didn't, it does lead to some hilarious dialogue where you were talking to Sarah at the time. There's this really funny line because in the show they're going after these things called butterflies, which are alien creatures.
I had to explain it to her and she saw it and she was like, oh.
And he's going to his dad and he's talking to his dad in prison. He's like, I'm going after these things called butterflies. He's like, you hate illegal aliens? These things are real illegal aliens. They're actually aliens. Like, it's like the humor works.
Also, like the fact that being against illegal immigration is a white supremacist stance. That's sort of weird.
It's ridiculous. I will say though that they are finding a way to make all the characters, like Adebayo is not as innocent as like they're kind of ruining her in a sense in this, like she's doing bad things, but she's almost like wishy-washy about why she's even doing it.
Yeah.
I feel like they're working up to make a big turn at the end where she ends up being super evil. Like just like her, like she ends up being her mom's daughter, being Amanda It's Amanda Waller's daughter, and in these movies, Amanda Waller is just the definition of government overreach and lack of conscience. Very, very bad person who's portrayed to do really awful things for the good of the American public, but it's a character that's much, much deeper in this. This is her daughter who's been sent to spy on these people. I think Freddie Stroma as Vigilante is probably the strongest character next to John Cena.
I love his character so much.
Yes. He is very funny. It reminds me as if they made Napoleon Dynamite a murderous vigilante.
Yep.
That's so hard to imagine.
Yes. Harcourt has some moments of possible brilliance, but what I get from this is that the actress who plays her, which is I believe Julia Holland,
no, it's
Jennifer Holland, excuse me. She has this ability in the emotionally resonant, in the scenes with emotional resonance where you're supposed to feel something. She really can pull it out of the people that she's working with looks. Like I feel like she's miscast genre wise in this. She doesn't do the campy, swear a lot humor, and then beat guys up stuff the way that she could, that another actress could. But she gets the scenes. A lot of what James Gunn's work is to take crude humor, really, really immature characters, and build them around a story that has deep emotional impact. Because a lot of them are extremely damaged people, and they act stupid and they act ridiculous in accordance to their emotional trauma. And he has this really good way of pulling that out of these characters. Centered, layered around it is really crude humor, really heavy swearing, and all this stuff. That's the stuff that draws people in. But it's the emotional story that really keeps people watching. James Gunn is fantastic at that. I just don't think that she pulls off the crude humor shell on the outside of the emotional scenes.
What do you think they cast her?
I mean, her role in she was a holdover from the Suicide Squad movie as a character named that's basically set at a screen the whole movie. So I think they did it to keep in continuity. I think if there hadn't been cast, like I said, she was cast as a much less emotionally abrasive person in the movie. She's just a person in front of a screen, right? So they didn't cast her for this type of role, but then they kept her on because it's in continuity with the movie.
Okay.
So they did say that character had never been in the movie before. I feel like they probably would have gone with somebody focused more on the humor aspect than the emotional aspect, because the humor is the core of the fan base. I don't know how many of the people watch this stuff for the emotional stuff that I love. Like Peacemaker, I love him because at heart he's a child. Like he is an extremely violent, extremely abrasive, and extremely kind of buffoon, but he's deep down he's a damaged kid who is trying to find his place in the world. He's really trying to win the love of his dad, who just happens to be an evil, murdering, racist piece of crap.
It sounds like a lot of what they're picking up on in terms of psychological development of characters is popular on especially TikTok, but social media right now. There's the concept of reparenting your inner child is incredibly talked about.
Can you explain that?
It's the idea that, and it goes with a couple different psychological theories, that as your psychological development begins as a kid, it navigates both your personality, your ideas of trauma and safety, and your attachment. And sort of a buzz term right now is the idea that you, as a child, not everyone, but if you have issues that you need to work through, it's often because as a child you weren't given the type of stability, love, affection, support that you needed.
Well, that fits
whether
into
or
this.
not whether or not your parents intended to or not.
So not that they're bad, they just didn't know how to do it.
And as an adult, you know, if you want to get better, you have to quote unquote reparent your inner child to you know, affirm like what you didn't get as a child, and then sort of work from there. There are lots of different ways to sort of go about this, or different opinions on this, but that term reparent your child is circulating a lot on sort of self-help websites and things like that.
Well, they always talked about that in media, no matter what. Like most TV shows and movies talk about it.
Parents screw up their kids without trying to.
I mean, this is just a reality, but the idea, like, you have to reparent, like, he's a kid, you know, the fact that you literally compared him to a child, so like public thought right now, or like a lot of self-improvement would tell you, like, well, he is a damaged child and he should just never move past that.
And I'm sorry, but Cena does a fantastic job of delivering these really crude lines, like a child. Like, he has this line at the end where Harcourt's at the bar, and he's like he says something, he walks away all kind of sad and mopey, like he's an 11-year-old kid, and he turns around and he goes, "Your tits look great in that top." And then but then he makes the saddest face you've ever seen and puts his head down and kind of waits for her to like respond. She doesn't, so he just kind of sulks away, and it totally works. Like, you really like, and it works because this guy, like, John Cena's like hulking big with huge muscles, playing this immature child, and it doesn't work. Like, I feel like in somebody half his size, it doesn't work. I don't even know if Ryan Reynolds could have pulled that line off in that piece. Did you like the scene about him like dissing on Batman to the he basically, like, there's a guy who just keeps like outside his dad's house, and he comes out, he's like, they're always arguing about whether he's a superhero or not, and he's like you're a super villain, because he's like, Batman has a, what is it, he doesn't call it a rogues gallery, but he calls it something akin to a rogues gallery. He's like, you know why he has a rogues gallery? Because he doesn't kill them. He's like, how many people is Batman indirectly killed by sending these pieces of shit to jail when he should have just iced them or something like that? It's very meta. It's meta in a way that works much better than what was it we were watching recently that had the meta humor that didn't work.
Matrix.
The Matrix. It's very the characters are their own in this world. The characters are famous. The superheroes are famous the way the characters are famous in our world. So he talked about Aquaman in the first episode. He's like, I heard that he has sex with fish. Like, it's very meta, but in a very well written way. I will also point out that this is the first episode that James Gunn did not direct. It said on IMDb that he did, but it was on the actual episode, it said it was directed by somebody named Jody Hill.
And this was the first episode you liked?
Yeah, this is the first episode I actually liked.
I thought this one was one of the weaker ones.
Interesting.
One of the reasons being that I think that one of the things about Gunn's work is that there's usually a lot of violence and there's a lot of action. And in these shows, the budget is clearly not there to do that all the time. There was the fight scene with Judo Master, and that was it. Other than that, there was almost no actual action or anything like that. And a lot of what makes Gunn's humor work is the kind of humorous, childlike behavior as extremely gory violence is happening around you. It's they play off one another.
No, you forgot the scene with Vigilante.
In the jail.
Yeah, in the jail, he did a little bit some action.
But it was there. Like those were at the halfway through in the beginning, the first third, and then the first. Yeah, it's very, very sparse in comparison to where these things fit in the movies. I don't know if maybe the issue is that Gunn's work as a writer doesn't lend itself to this type of storytelling as it would the film environment. Now Gunn directed episodes 1, 2, and 3, so he wrote all 8. And directed the first 3, and he's directing other ones down the line. So it's possible. Why do you think
he took like a moment away from directing? Why is he skipping some?
He might. There could
have
been
projects,
maybe that, or it could just be that he just those were the ones he had certain ones that he knew needed to hit the right tone, and as a writer, and can answer questions and the rest, but just doesn't have the time to direct all of them. Most likely, I'm sure he comes back for like the last 2 or 3 as well, maybe 2 in the middle he doesn't, but I mean, he's a pretty in-demand dude, so to get him to do any type of even black label stuff like HBO Max, which isn't network TV, is still pretty hard to get something like that. He wrote all 8 episodes of this during the start of COVID.
Oh, interesting.
So he wrote this all just after they'd finished writing. They just finished wrap on filming The Suicide Squad. He didn't even know that the character of Peacemaker was going to be as popular as he was.
Yeah.
But he felt that the character resonated with him, so he wrote the show. At least that's what I have to assume, because he doesn't, he wrote this show before the movie came out, so there's no way he could have known the character was going to be that popular.
So you could say that he made a fan fiction.
Could be, in a way. I really do think that the strength of this show is bringing more of Freddie Stroma as Vigilante and John Cena as Peacemaker together. Myrn being a butterfly, that's a fairly cool twist I didn't see coming.
I saw that ending and I was like, no way, for real? And like Sarah was like, Oh my god.
Yeah, when they showed him sitting up really still, but he's kind of always like that. So he's always kind of closed off and tense.
He kind of reminds me of a male version of Amanda Waller.
I mean, he's supposed to be kind of, right? He's without the. I mean, that actor doesn't quite have Viola Davis's charisma, but that's not. He can't be blamed for that. That's like she's once in a lifetime talent in a lot of ways. So he's also hampered with some very like the lines he gets are lines that should be given to somebody with a more expanded role. Like they would work if there was reasons to explain why he's behaving like that. Like that whole thing about bettering himself in like episode 2, which was given no explanation. Like,
do you think it'll get further explanation in the series?
Now that they're positioning him as somebody who's clearly going to be, if not a villain, but somebody who's going to be a foil for them because they don't know that he's been infected with this. It's not a virus. It's with the alien.
It's an alien.
As an alien host. My hope is that he grows to be a more important character and rises to the occasion on that. Keep Harcourt for the more emotional scenes with Adebayo. They did a good job. There's a scene where Harcourt talks about like the toll that doing the work they do takes on you, and how otherwise it just makes you don't give a crap about human life, and you end up like Amanda Waller. She doesn't know that Amanda Waller is the other girl's mom. And that actress is doing a fine job of like dealing with the emotional, like she lies to basically the vigilante character. She has to like manipulate him into trying to kill Peacemaker's dad. And then she does it well, but then feels really bad about it afterwards.
I don't know. I feel like she can do it. Like, I love that character. Like, 2 of my favorite characters is Freddie and Daniela. That's the name of the actress. I love both of them. Those are like 2 of my favorite characters.
My hope is that she ends up becoming a bad guy.
Because maybe like she snaps because somebody took her wife.
Or just she just ends up being like her mom, like more like her mom than she realized, right? So in this whole thing, all these other, what it is, it feels like she's this good guy Greg. Well, there's a female version of good guy Greg that I don't know the.
It's Claire.
Yes.
Good guy Claire.
Good guy Greta, we'll say.
Ew.
Good girl Greta. So she's very soft spoken. It feels like the whole world is coming at her and she's absorbing it. Like, what the hell is wrong with all these people? Because she's in this group of like extremely talented killers who all seem to be extremely emotionally stunted, and she's like, how is this my life right now? My hope is that she ends up becoming more maniacal. And it ends up being for a purpose that she's just randomly like this and nothing, because she's an outlier character-wise from the other ones. Her and Myrn are both outliers as far as their personality types amongst the rest of them.
But she kind of brings like the humanity back into the show, kind of. That's why I like her so much, because she's kind of, even though she's an outlier, I like it a lot because it's different from everybody else.
I feel like they're setting that up to do something with it, that it's not just going to be like that for the sake of being like that, it ends up being that she either or her mom's going to ask her to do something that she doesn't want to do, and she has to rise to the occasion to not do it. Right?
Maybe that might be the plot twist.
That could be it. So she has to choose between fulfilling the role her mom asked her to do, keeping an eye on them, and if they do it right, they build the relationships around these characters enough that she develops a sense of camaraderie with them and chooses their lives over the mission that her mom sent her on.
Well, she did feel bad shooting Judo Master in the chest. You remember that scene?
She's like, I've never. That's another, like, it's almost like a story mismatch. Like they keep talking about how like trained she is. She's like, I'm sufficient in all these weapons.
Well, she has to, because everybody's like, why are you here?
Yeah, she keeps talking about that, but then she's like, I've never killed anyone. I've never even shot at anyone before. I'm like, you don't become proficient in weapon systems and work for the government without having shot at stuff. So I don't know. I have a feeling that this might just be like the lull period for me. I'm hoping that it picks up after this. But even for like an episode that I wasn't the biggest fan of, still leagues better than a lot of the stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. I actually like this series. Yep. Like looking back at it, I like it a lot.
Tell that to Andrew.
Oh, Andrew still doesn't like it.
I know. Yeah. Andrew's very snobby in his taste. That's okay.
Well, it's because he wants
a lot of snakes. I mean, he's a different breed.
He's a different breed.
Well, also Andrew really wants us to talk about sci-fi TV shows, so maybe we might talk about sci-fi.
I said that I'd be cruel and make him come on and talk about the Book of Boba Fett because he's a huge Star Wars guy and he's just absolutely...
He hates that.
He's so... you can see the spirit of just about all Star Wars fans being drained out of them as they watch all of the Disney Star Wars stuff. So,
well, also, we were making a joke because I had a banana milk. So if nobody knows what banana milk is, it's basically this milk that's flavored like bananas. And I said I bought it from H Mart. And he's like, are you trying to make me go to H Mart with you? Like, you're just using me for my car? And I'm like, yeah, your car's gonna be mine one day.
That could be it.
I don't know. It's just funny, but he does want us to talk about sci-fi.
Well, he's going to have to... we're not starting shows in the middle of them. We started Superman and Lois in season 2 as like a bit of an off. That's not the norm. Like, we did that because I got really into season 1.
Well, there's... Go ahead. Sorry. No, you go ahead. There was a series last night that I really wanted us to watch. It's one of Netflix original anime series. It's called Dada... Dragon's Blood, but it's already in season 2. It's like in book 2. That's what they call their seasons.
It's just to get caught up.
It's 16 episodes.
I'm preferential right now to shows that are coming out week to week, so we don't have to review them in chunks. I hate doing that because something you can never get across the full breadth of what you're trying to say when you have to review 8 episodes. Like when we did the Dexter one actually went fairly well, but in general it's very hard to feel like you've covered everything and sufficiently explained it and give a recommendation on something like that, especially since it ends up being all spoilers anyways.
Yeah, for sure.
I do think that the dad storyline, unless that becomes more comic book oriented and less about the stupid modern day politics of it, that drags down.
But I got excited with the costume.
When they
reveal the costume, I was so excited for it. Because I remember like searching up the character and I was like, I am excited for this.
Yep. It's the funny thing is what you said. They mentioned the deep state and this. They take a lot of jabs at this stuff. More Freddie Stroma. More Vigilant, more Adrian Chase, more John Cena, them together. Like I would have been completely okay if they made this like a buddy cop series of just them going around being really immature and violent together. So yes, so you're looking forward to him the most, to Vigilante, and to you like Leota Adebayo. I thought it was Leona. It's Leota.
It's Leota. But I don't know. I'm really excited for those two characters. I like them more. Like those two shine for me the most. But I don't know. Maybe
the music is a high point if you love the 80s or if you love rock music.
I made a compliment. I said I love the music choice.
Yes, that's a staple of Guns work. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.